Hello and welcome to the House of Law. Here I tell quiet stories that settle the mind, the kind you can listen to with heavy eyelids as the day gently lets go. Tonight I am taking you to a river at the end of a slow walk, not in a hurry, not chasing anything. Just arriving and noticing. If you enjoy this calm way of traveling through old paths and small details, you can like, subscribe, or share. The House of Law, so it is easy to find again when you need another restful place to listen. Now, let us come closer to the water. I reach the river at a gentle bend, where the current loosens its grip, and the surface gathers itself into long, quiet lines. The light is soft. The air carries that clean scent of wet stone, leaf, and soil, and it feels cooler near the bank, as if the river is breathing. I do not step right up to the edge. First, I pause and listen. The water speaks in an even tone, not loud, not sharp, just steady movement, like a simple song that does not need a beginning or an end. I look for a place to rest that is safe and comfortable. A good spot near a river is not always the closest one. The closest places can be steep, slippery, or uncertain underfoot, and even a calm river can surprise you if the ground gives way. So I begin by searching for level ground. I let my eyes travel over the bank, noticing where the grass lies flat, where stones sit firm, where the earth looks settled and old. A level patch of ground feels honest. It does not ask the body to brace or balance. It invites the shoulders to lower and the jaw to unclench. I take a few slow steps, testing each place with the quiet patience of someone who has time. Under my boots, some soil is too soft. Some is uneven with roots. Some is scattered with round stones that might roll. I keep going without any frustration. The river will still be here. Soon I find it, a small, natural clearing where the ground becomes smooth and nearly flat. The grass is short. The earth is firm. It looks like a place that has held many peaceful pauses. I stop there, and then I consider the distance from the water. Close enough to hear it clearly, but not so close that a sudden slip would carry me in. I imagine the river in different moods. After rain, after a long season of melting snow, or at night when shadows make the edge harder to read. So I choose a little distance from the riverbank, a respectful space. Here the water is near, but not demanding. From this spot the sounds are still soft. I can hear the small notes, the faintest taps where the current finds stone, the hush of a shallow run, the occasional lift of a ripple. It is the kind of sound that steadies the mind, not like silence that can feel empty, but a living quiet that keeps you company. I turn slowly in a full circle. I want a clear view of the surroundings, not because I expect trouble, but because the body rests better when it knows what is around it. A clear view is a simple comfort. It lets the mind stop guessing. Behind me there are a few trees, not too dense, not too close. To one side the river curves away. To the other it opens into a wider stretch where the bank is gentle. I look for anything that could shift, a leaning branch, loose stones, a hidden dip in the ground. Everything looks calm. The patch of ground is level. The river is near, but not too near. The sound is steady and soft. and the view is open enough to feel at ease. I let myself stand there for another moment, simply breathing. In through the nose, slowly. Out through the mouth, even more slowly. Then I settle my weight comfortably, as if I have been expected. The river continues its patient work, and I allow my thoughts to move like the water does. Not rushing, just flowing. The path narrows a little here, and without thinking too hard about it, I begin to look for a place that feels right. Not perfect, not hidden away like a secret, just right enough to stop. I let my steps slow. The ground speaks in small signals, a mild rise, a softer patch of earth, a place where the grass is pressed down as if it has welcomed a traveler before. When I find a spot that seems steady, I turn once, the small circle of checking without urgency. I notice the slope, the stones, the low plants. I notice how the air moves. Then I take the pack from my shoulders and set it down, not dropping it, not tossing it aside, just lowering it, carefully, until it rests. The sound is quiet. A dull, gentle thump, fabric settling, a faint whisper as straps relax. I keep my hand on it for a moment, feeling its weight become part of the ground. It is strange how quickly the body understands. The load is no longer mine to carry, at least not for now. I straighten slowly. I let my shoulders fall where they want to fall. I roll them once, not as a stretch, but as a reminder that I am allowed to soften. And then I take a slow breath, in through the nose, steady and plain, out through the mouth, unhurried. I do it again, and this time I listen to the breath as if it is something outside me, something simple, something steady, the kind of sound that has been here longer than any thought. With the breathing settled, I begin to notice the light. It lies across the ground in wide patches, warm in one place, cool in another. A narrow band of brightness reaches through the leaves and lands on the earth like a quiet ribbon. Nearby, shade gathers under a branch, darker and calmer, as if it has been saving that coolness for later. I look at the edges where light becomes shade. There is no hard line, just a soft change, a gentle blending. The air feels different in those places too. In the light, it is a little more open. In the shade, it is a little more still. I take one small step and let the shade touch my face and hands. Then another step, and the light returns. It is a slow, quiet experiment, like dipping fingers into water to test the temperature. I do not rush to decide anything. Instead, I let the area introduce itself. A few sounds arrive when I pause long enough to hear them. The faint tick of something small in the brush, a distant call that might be a bird, or just whined in a thin branch. Somewhere nearby, leaves shift against each other, not loud, just present. I notice the scent, too. It changes as I breathe. Earth and green things. A hint of dry bark. Nothing sharp, nothing demanding. I let my eyes rest on simple details, the pattern of veins in a leaf, the way a stone is half sunk into the soil, the tiny shadows made by blades of grass. This is how a place becomes familiar. Not by naming it, not by taking it apart with thoughts, but by allowing it to be near me for a little while. I kneel beside the pack and open it partway, just enough. My movements stay slow. as if the night is already here, even if the sky is still pale. I take out only a few simple items. One small cloth, folded. I lay it down where my hands can reach it again. A container of water, placed carefully so it will not roll. And a small bundle of what I might need later. Nothing elaborate, nothing heavy. Just the kind of things that make a pause feel complete. I place each item with attention, not as a task to finish, but as a way to quiet the mind. Set down, then still. Set down, then breathe. It is not about preparing for anything grand. It is about signaling to myself, in a language made of small actions, that I am allowed to be here. I take another slow breath. The shoulders soften again. The jaw loosens. The eyes blink gently, and the muscles around them release. I sit back on my heels for a moment and look around as if I am meeting the place properly. The light continues to shift, almost too slowly to notice. A bright patch slides a little, and a shaded corner grows longer. The world is never perfectly still, but it can be calm. I let my attention widen. Behind me, to one side, ahead, I trace the space with my eyes and let it settle into memory. Not the sharp memory of a map, but the soft memory of comfort. Here is where the pack rests. Here is where the ground is smooth. Here is where the shade holds. And here is where the light touches. After a few minutes, the place begins to feel less like a stop along the way, and more like a small room with no walls. A quiet corner of the world, familiar enough for rest. I do not need to do much more. I only need to stay gentle. So I let my hands rest in my lap, and I sit with the simple feeling of being here, breathing, noticing, and letting the pace slow on its own. The ground holds everything without effort, and for now, I let it hold me too. I take the tent from my pack and set it down beside the spot I chose earlier, not because it is perfect, but because it feels steady. Before I unfold anything, I look around for direction, a small decision that makes the rest simpler. I notice where the breeze comes from, where the trees give shelter, and where the ground stays most level. If there is morning light, I think about that too, not as a plan, just as a gentle preference. I turn the bundled tent in my hands until the door will face the calmer side, away from wind, away from stray grit. It is a quiet kind of orientation, like placing a chair where it naturally belongs. Then I give my attention to the ground. I do not rush it. I use the side of my boot to sweep away twigs and small stones, moving them out to the edges. I press down tufts of grass and smooth, loose soil with slow strokes of my hand. Each motion is simple, repeated, and easy to follow. When the space is clear enough, I lay down the footprint or ground sheet, if I have one. I pull it flat from corner to corner, letting it find its square shape. I pause to tug one edge, then another, until the wrinkles relax. Now the tent fabric. I unroll it and let it open in its own time, like a blanket being spread. I find the corners, one by one, and place them roughly where they will go. Not exact, just close. Poles come next, and I handle them with the same calm order. I slide each section together until it clicks, a soft, familiar joining. Click, then the next, and the next. The rhythm is steady, and that steadiness is the point. I thread the first pole through its sleeve, or clip it along the body of the tent, depending on the design. I do not think too far ahead. I only do the step in front of me, then the next step. When the frame begins to rise, it does so gently. The fabric lifts off the ground, and air returns underneath it. I adjust a corner, then straighten an edge, small corrections that keep everything peaceful. I stake the first corner just enough to hold it, not tight, not perfect. Then the opposite corner, creating a simple line of balance. After that, the remaining corners, each one pressed into place with even pressure. If the wind stirs, I let my movements become slower, not faster. I keep the tent low until it is ready to stand, and I keep my hands close to the fabric so it does not flap or snap. Once the main shape is up, I walk around it in an unhurried circle, smoothing the base, aligning the seams, checking that nothing is twisted. I tighten a strap a little, then stop. I pull a corner, then stop. I allow pauses, because pauses keep the work gentle. Finally, I set the lines, if there are lines, and I angle them cleanly away from the tent. I place each stake where it feels firm, and I pull each cord just until it is supportive. Not strained, not singing, just steady. The tent now has a quiet order to it, a simple geometry resting on the earth. The door is where I meant it to be. The floor is smooth. The edges are clear. I take one more moment to pat down the ground sheet inside and to press my palm along the floor, feeling for any hidden pebble that might bother me later. If I find one, I lift the fabric and remove it, then smooth the spot again. Everything about this is ordinary, and that is what makes it restful. Unpack, place, smooth, join the poles, lift the frame, secure the corners. A few steps, repeated in the same calm way, until the space feels settled. And when I stand back, the tent is not only shelter. It is a small, quiet room made from patient actions, and it holds the night with ease. The room settles into a quieter shape when I begin arranging the place where I will sleep. I start with the mat. It is not much to look at, and that is the point. A simple pad between me and the floor. I unroll it slowly, letting it find its length without snapping back. I guide the corners with my hands. I press along the surface, smoothing small ripples, as if I am flattening out the last little worries of the day. When the mat is in place, I pause. I like to check that it sits straight, not for perfection, only for calm. A mat set at a gentle angle can make the whole space feel unsettled. So I shift it a little, a few inches. Then I stop. The floor does not need anything else from me. Next comes the sleeping bag. I lay it down and let it rest there for a moment. If it has been packed away, it always seems to hold a memory of folds. I loosen it with quiet patience. I pull it open. I lift it slightly and give it time to fill with air. Fluffing is a small kind of kindness. I run my hands along the top, pressing lightly and then releasing. I shake the foot end once or twice. Nothing hurried, just enough to invite warmth back into its place. The bag becomes softer, less like equipment, more like a simple bed. I check the zipper without forcing it. I make sure it can open and close with ease. Small frictions are the sort that return at night. I would rather solve them now while my mind is still awake enough to be gentle. Then I choose a small light and put it where I can find it, not bright, not sharp, just a humble glow that can be reached with one hand. I set it close to the edge of the mat, near where my fingers will naturally fall. I test it once, on, then off. That little light is not there to keep me awake. It is there so I can relax, so I do not have to wonder where things are, so I can let the room stay mostly dark, without feeling lost inside it. Now I make the space tidy. I move a few items out of the way. I place what I might need within a small radius. Water nearby, if I have it. A folded layer of clothing, in case the air cools. Anything else goes to the side, beyond the borders of this resting place. I like the edges to feel clean, a clear floor around the mat. No clutter to catch the toe, no objects that ask for attention. The fewer shapes my eyes can find in the dimness, the easier it is for thought to become slow. I take one more moment to listen, the soft sound of fabric settling, the faint hush of the room, my own breathing returning to an easy rhythm. In this plain arrangement, something inside me understands what comes next. Rest does not need much. A flat place, a warm layer, a small light set aside, and a tidy calm that says, "You are done for today." The river keeps its own time. It does not hurry the way the day can hurry. It does not ask anything from me. It only moves, dark and steady, carrying the last light in small, broken reflections. I stay close to the bank where the ground is firm. My steps are careful, slow, quiet. In the evening, I like simple routines, things that tell the body it can stop holding itself up so tightly. Things that ask for almost nothing except attention. Near the water, I find a low place where the edge is gentle. I crouch without rushing. I let my hands hover over the surface for a moment, feeling the coolness rising from it. Then I dip my fingers in. The water is cold enough to be clear in the mind, but not harsh. I cup it in my palms and bring it to my hands first, rinsing away the thin layer of the day. Dust, sap, the faint trace of smoke or soil. I rub my palms together slowly. I wash between my fingers. I let the water run over my wrists. When my hands feel clean, I gather another small pool of water and lift it to my face. I close my eyes before it touches me. Cool water on the forehead, across the cheeks, along the bridge of the nose. I do not scrub. I do not rush. I only let the water do what water does, take what it can, and leave the rest. I breathe out. When I open my eyes again, the river looks the same, and yet slightly newer, as if a thin veil has been lifted from my attention. I dry my face with a cloth I keep folded in my pack. It is plain and soft from use. I pat, not pull, careful around the eyes. Then I sit back on my heels and let my hands rest for a moment. There is a quiet comfort in being clean at the end of the day. I stand and move a few steps away from the river to where the air is a little less damp. The ground smells of reeds and stones, a slow, mineral scent. I open my pack and take out the layers I saved for night. Warm things, simple things. A thicker shirt first, then a wool sweater that holds heat without feeling heavy. I slide my arms through, one at a time, and settle the fabric across my shoulders. I add a scarf, not tight, just enough to soften the edge of cool air at the throat. I change my socks for a dry pair. That small change shifts everything. Warmth rises from the feet, and the body begins to believe in rest. Each movement is quiet. Not because I am afraid of sound, but because the evening does not need noise. I fold the clothes I took off and set them aside. I smooth them once with my hand. A calm habit, a way of saying, this is in its place. The river keeps moving. I lower myself to sit again, not sharply, not all at once. I ease down until the weight settles and the muscles in my legs stop working. I let my hands rest in my lap. My shoulders drop when I give them permission. I notice the small sensations now. The warmth inside the sleeves, the cool air touching only the parts left uncovered, the steady, low sound of water going by. I do not try to solve anything. I do not try to plan. If a thought arrives, I let it pass like a leaf on the current, present for a moment, then gone. I take a slow breath in, and a slow breath out. The body listens to patterns. It learns them. It trusts them. Cool water, dry cloth, warm layers, quiet movement. These are ordinary things, but they make a gentle doorway. I shift my feet and feel the ground through the soles. I lean slightly back, letting my spine lengthen without effort. Then I become still enough to hear the small details. A soft stir in the grasses. A distant night bird. The river. Always the river. My eyelids grow heavier, not with force, but with agreement. This is what I came here for. To let the day loosen its grip. To let the body settle, one simple step at a time. I breathe again, and I sit beside the water, warm, clean, and quiet, as the evening continues on its slow, steady path. The river keeps its quiet company as I settle in, close enough to hear it clearly, but not so close that the air turns cold against my skin. I have brought a simple meal, the kind that does not ask much of me. A small piece of bread, a bit of cheese, something plain and steady, made for evenings when I want my thoughts to soften. I set everything down in an unhurried way, not arranging, not fussing, just placing each thing where my hands naturally fall. Before I eat, I let myself listen. The river is never silent, and it never needs to explain itself. It moves over stones, around roots, past the darker shapes of reeds. The sound is not loud. It is only constant, and that constancy feels like a promise. I take the first bite slowly. Bread first, the simplest taste. The crust gives way with a small effort. The inside is mild, a little sweet, and I chew until it is soft enough to disappear without rush. Between bites, I pause. Not because I am counting time, but because the pause belongs here. In the pause, I can hear the water again, slipping along its path. I add the cheese next, just a small piece. Nothing sharp, nothing demanding. It sits on the tongue and warms quickly, turning smooth as I chew. My meal is plain, and I like it that way. There is a kind of rest in food that does not surprise you. When I reach for my cup, I hold it in both hands. The warmth meets my palms first, and then my fingers curl around it, as if they already knew what to do. The cup is steady. The heat is gentle. I do not lift it right away. I simply hold it and breathe. The warmth travels slowly from the cup into my hands, from my hands into my arms, and then into that quiet place behind the ribs where the body keeps its softer feelings. I take a sip. Not a mouthful, just enough to taste the comfort of it. The drink is warm and simple. It does not need to be named to be understood. It tastes like evening, like something prepared with care, like patience. I swallow and let the warmth settle. The river continues. I take another bite, small, easy. I chew without hurry, letting each movement be complete. I notice how the jaw works, how the tongue shifts the food, how even this ordinary act can become calm when I do not push it. Between bites, between sips, there is space. In that space, the river speaks in its low way, a steady voice made of countless tiny sounds. A small rush here, a softer ripple there, a pause where the current deepens. I sip again, slower this time. The cup warms my hands each time I lift it, and when I lower it, I keep both palms around it, as if the warmth is something I can hold on to for a little longer. I eat until I feel satisfied, not full, just settled. When there is only a last piece left, I take it without ceremony. I finish it slowly, and then I rest my hands again around the cup. The river keeps moving, and I let my listening become simple. I do not try to follow every sound. I only notice the whole of it, the way it carries on, moment after moment, as if it is teaching me how to continue gently, too. I take one more sip, and then another, until the cup is lighter, and the warmth in my hands has done its work. After that, I sit with the quiet. The meal is done. The drink is nearly gone. The river is still here, threading its calm through the evening air. And I remain, unhurried, listening between my breaths, letting the slow water set the pace for my thoughts. The plate rests on my knees, simple food, nothing that asks for attention. I sit where the ground is level, with a folded cloth beneath me to keep the damp from rising too quickly. Above the yard, the sky keeps dimming, not all at once, but in small stages. The brighter blue slips away first, then the pale part. What remains is a softer color that feels farther off, as if the ceiling of the world has lifted a little higher. I watch the last light settle along the edges of things, the fence rail, the rim of a bucket, the darkening line of trees. Shapes become less detailed. They do not vanish. They simply stop explaining themselves. When I take a bite, I do it slowly. The quiet makes every motion feel clear. The small scrape of a fork, the faint sound of cloth against my sleeve. Even my breathing has a cooler note to it now. In the grass nearby, there are gentle sounds, a thin rustle that moves, pauses, then moves again. It could be an insect shifting its path. It could be something small passing through, careful and unhurried. The sound is not loud enough to name. It does not need a name. The trees add their own steady conversation. Leaves touching leaves, a light tapping where twigs meet. The air is not still, but it is calm. It touches my face, then my hands, like it is checking the temperature of the evening. I notice the coolness more with each minute. It gathers at my ankles first, then along my wrists. Not sharp, just present. A clean kind of chill that reminds me the day has stepped back and the night has taken its place. Somewhere beyond the yard, the river keeps its rhythm. It is steady in a way that feels patient. Not a rushing sound, more like a long, continuous sentence spoken under the breath. If I listen closely, I can hear its pattern inside the larger quiet, water against the bank, water over stones, water moving on. I eat another small bite and let my jaw slow down. I set the fork down and simply hold still. The longer I do, the more details arrive on their own. A distant bird settles into sleep. A soft note. Then nothing. A tiny click in the grass. The river continuing. The sky now almost fully turned, and in that dimness the world feels gentle, as if it has been lowered into a calmer setting. I stay there, with a quiet meal outdoors, letting the night assemble itself, one small sound at a time. The path back to the tent is easy to find, not because it is marked, but because my feet remember it. The night has a gentle weight to it now. The air feels settled. Even the small sounds seem to know where to rest. A leaf turning over, a distant wing beat, the soft insistence of insects in the grass. When I reach the tent, I pause for a moment at the opening. I let my hand find the edge of the fabric. I feel its texture, cool and slightly rough, steady under my fingers. Inside, everything is simple. I lower the light. It is not a dramatic change. It is more like closing a book without needing to mark the page. The glow becomes smaller, warmer, and the shadows in the corners relax into place. I take a slow breath, and then another. I let my shoulders drop, as if they have been holding up something unnecessary all evening. I notice the quiet work of my body, the way it keeps time without asking me to manage it. I settle down. I adjust what needs adjusting, a fold of cloth, the angle of my pillow, the position of my hands. Nothing has to be perfect. Comfort is often a small series of kind choices. I find the position that asks the least of me. Maybe I lie on my back and let my arms rest loose at my sides. Maybe I turn onto my side and feel the steady contact of the ground beneath my hip and shoulder. Either way, I let my jaw unclench. I let my tongue rest. I let my eyes become heavy, even if they are still open. The tent holds the night at a friendly distance. Outside, the world continues, but it does not demand anything from me. I listen without trying to identify every sound. I do not chase the meaning of each rustle. I simply let the night be the night. If thoughts arrive, I make room for them. A thought might drift in like a small boat on dark water. I do not need to climb into it. I can watch it pass. I can notice its shape, its color, and then let it move along. Some thoughts return again and again. Even those can soften. I treat them like familiar visitors who do not need entertaining. They can sit quietly in the corner of my mind, and eventually they grow bored and leave. I return my attention to the simplest things, breathing in and breathing out, the air moving through my nose, the rise of my chest, the gentle release as I exhale. I feel the blanket or sleeping bag around me, a calm boundary. I feel the steady support beneath me, patient and unmoving. The light is low now, almost nothing. In that dimness, the edges of the day blur. Moments lose their sharpness. The hours I carried begin to set themselves down, one by one, without argument. If I am still awake, that is all right. Rest can begin before sleep. Rest can start as a decision to stop pushing, to stop solving, to stop rehearsing. I listen, not for danger, not for answers, just for the gentle proof that the world is turning as it should. A soft gust, a quiet settling sound, the faint rhythm of something living in the distance, and then, even that listening becomes less active. My attention widens, like a lens slowly losing focus. The tent, the night, my thoughts, all of it floating together in a mild, untroubled blur. I let the darkness do its work. I let the last bits of tension drain from my hands, from my feet, from the small muscles around my eyes. Whatever remains unfinished can remain unfinished. For now, there is only this, the hush of fabric, the quiet air, and the steady, unhurried pace of my breath as the night carries me inward and down. The night keeps its shape around the tent, not pressing in, not asking for anything. Inside, there is only the small world I have made, fabric walls, a zipper that knows its work, the quiet weight of a blanket. The ground beneath me feels steady, not perfectly smooth, but honest. It holds me without shifting. I listen for what might change, and I find that very little does. The river is still there, beyond the thin layer of cloth and air. It does not need to be loud to be present. It moves in its own patient way, sliding around stones, loosening the edges of the day. That sound is a kind of steady sentence, spoken over and over. It does not carry instructions. It only says that the world continues, and that continuing can be gentle. My breathing joins it. In the dark, breath becomes simple again, in and out. A quiet tide inside my chest. I do not try to make it deeper. I do not try to count it. I just let it arrive and let it leave. Sometimes there is a small pause between breaths, and in that pause, everything feels even more still. I notice the smallest details, the way the tent cloth softens the night air, the faint coolness near the door, the warmer pocket where my body has been resting. The zipper pull is a tiny piece of metal, unmoving, satisfied to be where it is. Outside, the river continues. I imagine it in the dark, not as a thing to watch, but as a presence that does not require my attention. A line of water finding its path, repeating what it has always known. That steadiness makes the tent feel more certain. Not as a fortress, just a small shelter that does not pretend to be more than it is. A place to lie down, a place to be off duty. If a sound comes, it arrives softly. A distant shift in leaves, a subtle settling of the bank. The night has room for these small movements. None of them hurry me. None of them carry a sharp edge. I let my jaw loosen just a little. I let my shoulders sink. as if they have been waiting for permission. The river keeps speaking in its calm way, and my body answers with the slow language of rest. In the dark, I can feel how safety is sometimes made of ordinary things, a reliable shelter, a steady ground, a familiar rhythm of sound, a breath that keeps returning. I do not need to solve anything here. I do not need to remember everything. I can simply lie still and let the night be wide and quiet. The tent is enough. The river is enough. One breath, and then the next. Thoughts grow lighter, as if they are learning to float. They come and they drift, and they move on without needing to be followed. The darkness is kind in its simplicity. It hides what can wait until morning. Now there is only the gentle sound beyond the fabric and the soft hush inside it. I rest, and the night rests with me, steady, quiet, and safe.